What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Trank. So today I'm just going to go over a really quick tip for making super simple push blocks in your shop. You don't have to invest in any of those fancy ones for doing thin rips or anything like that. These work better than all of those in my opinion, and all you need is some scrap wood and some adhesive back cork, which is super inexpensive. So go ahead and check out this video. I think you'll like it. Let's go ahead and get started. So here you can see I've got a few that I've been using for quite a while now, and so they're pretty worked in and we're losing the cork and losing grip on the pieces. And what's nice about this is that we can just trim off the end here and then just reattach the cork, and we'll turn these into new ones. It's also simple to make new ones just by grabbing a new block. But basically these push blocks follow the same concept of like a zero clearance insert, and the idea is that this will just go into the blade when you're cutting and totally give full support around the workpiece as you're going through on these thinner cuts. And this cork and wood have no problem going into the blade, and so it's a really good way to get a secure hold on your work. And so let's just go ahead and make a couple and just do a few cuts. So to make these, go ahead and find some scrap wood. I tend to use 3/4 inch plywood or 3/4 inch MDF that I've got laying around the shop. And we're gonna go ahead and cut those down into rectangles. I like to make mine about 5 inches wide by 10 inches long, but anywhere around that vicinity is gonna make you a good push block. And then this step's optional, but if you want a little tab at the end that can be used to push the wood through the table saw, then go ahead and just make a little notch here. I'm using the crosscut sled, but you could also use a bandsaw or a handsaw or anything. I just make this little notch like you see here so that I can then run it through the table saw and remove most of the bottom portion and just leave that little tab on the backside. And that's just going to give you a little extra push, but I like to make some without this as well, and you'll see in a minute why. Okay, so with these cut out, we can just go ahead and use some of this adhesive back cork, which you can pick up online or in store. It's pretty inexpensive, and we're just going to go ahead and line one edge of these with the cork. Okay, so then we can just peel the adhesive off the cork here and throw this on the underside. Now what I do, because the cork's a little bit wider, is I make sure I line up one edge of the cork with the edge of the wood, and then I can always come through with the razor and trim the other side. But there, just like that, we've got the cork on. That gives us a nice grippy surface, and this one is done. So we'll just repeat that with the others. You can see on these other ones here, they don't have the tab, and again, I like to make a mix of both because depending on the type of push or cut I'm doing, it'll be nice to have the tab and sometimes not. Come through and trim these little excess bits off just to clean it up a little bit. And that gives us a nice clean edge. So of course there's tons of options for stop blocks. There's everything from, these fancy adjustable ones that can, adjust in all sorts of different ways, to our classic sort of push block and then push sticks. Now, I don't mind push blocks and push sticks. However, the thing that I'm running into more times than not is that I'm ripping things that are very close to the blade, in which case any of these are going to run into the blade, and of course that's an issue. And so that is why I really love using these shop-made ones, because the cork gives you the nice grippiness, and then because it's just wood and the cork, you can just easily run this right through the blade and cut into that, and you're not going to have any problems in terms of damaging the blade or damaging the push block, anything like that. And it gives you full support around the workpiece for when you're doing really thin little cuts or thin little rips. And so I just think it's really nice, and they're super simple to make, and they're super inexpensive. So now that we've got these couple made, I'm just going to show a few different types of cuts and why they come in useful. So the beauty here of these push blocks is that you can just totally embed them into the blade like a zero clearance push block basically. And so you can see when I'm doing these really thin cuts, I can just ram it right in there and give full support to the workpiece, and it gives you super accurate results. I cut these ones down, and let's take a look. Okay, so there we just made a bunch of really thin rips there using the fence as the stop. We got 0.237, 0.234, 0.233, 0.236. So all four of these cuts are within about 1/5 thou or less, and that was thanks to using the fence as the reference and using that push block to just follow it through the cut and keep full support on that piece as it goes through. So it works really well, and if you're doing any sort of cuts like this, it just is definitely worth trying out. Okay, so now I'm going to show you guys the best example of where these shop-made push blocks really come in to work really well, and that is when we're going to be making really thin cuts here. Now if I bring in the blade, let's say about here, of course no conventional push block or push stick's going to be able to get in there. However, this we can just run along the fence and bury into the blade, and it's not going to damage anything, and it's going to give us good support over the workpiece. So let's go ahead and make this cut, and I'm going to do a hand over hand technique since this is a longer strip, just to show you how this works with longer pieces. Okay, so let's look at the result of that cut here. If we measure the piece we just cut, I've got 0.259 on this end, and on this end I've got 0.253, so within 6 thou across this about 2 foot long, very thin strip. That's about as good as you're going to get on a table saw anyway, and so that worked really well. And if we look at the push blocks, we can see there's the kerf of the blade. It just buried into the workpiece a little bit, but the piece still functions fine. It gave us full support, and again, once these get super marred up, we can just cut this off and apply some more cork and reuse them. So I think it's a fantastic method. These are pretty much the only push sticks and push blocks I use, and so give them a try, build some yourself, and see what you think. Okay, that's going to do it for today's video. So hopefully you give these a try. They're super easy to make and they're super useful. I'll leave a link below for some of the adhesive back cork if you want to pick some up and try it out. I think you'll like it. So if you enjoyed this, guys, be sure to subscribe to my channel. Try to get this channel growing. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.